Imagine a really polished, well-spoken guy going off to college, and then he returns from break and everybody finds him like a cussing sailor. He went off not as a cusser, but when he came back, he was a cusser. And that person, that was me. And maybe I wasn't that polished, but I definitely was someone who really wasn't a cusser. But I experienced what's called the subconscious drift. And that's, something that we all face where our environment really affects us. We may not even know it, but before you know it, all of a sudden we're acting and behaving in ways based on our environment, maybe not how we were grown or what we were watching as we were growing up as kids. And that can really affect us as a leader. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And the core question that I want to ask you is, if your environment so easily rewires our habits, what can we do to maintain a positive influence around those that we lead? And the answer to this I found came in my 20s when I was at a business meeting, a business seminar. I was a broke college kid wanting to make some extra money, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's go down to Greensboro, North Carolina. They're having this seminar, about how to make money." So I was like, okay, I'm in. And what I learned was about the power of your words and how your words really set the course for your future. And that requires a different mindset of thinking differently. And as a Christian, I know that we're made up of like a three-part being. We're a spirit, we have a soul, and we live in a body. And the feeding our spirit is about feeding on the Word of God, reading the Bible. And feeding our soul is about what we're consuming in our mind. The books that we read, the conversations that we have, the things that we watch. It all affects our brain and rewires us, and it affects our words. And for us to effectively lead, we need to have a healthy spirit, a healthy soul, and a healthy body. So I came across, I remember hearing about this for the first time, and they talked about two methods to really put this into application. They called it the ATM method. Whereas think about an ATM, it's, you can't withdraw money out of an ATM unless you first deposit something in it first. And that's how it is with our mind. If we're gonna try to react positively and have something good to say, we first have to put things in our mind for that to come about. And so the second method is the dilution method. And the dilution method is like taking a thimble of poison and pouring it in a glass and then drinking it. More than likely, you're going to get sick. But if you take that same thimble of poison and you dump it in a swimming pool, and then you take a cup out of that swimming pool and drink it, nothing's going to happen to you because that pool outweighs the toxins in that thimble. So those two methods about what you put in is going to enable you to withdraw, and the amount of what you put in is going to dilute the negative in things that impact us. In fact, the dilution method, it looks like this. It looks like office donuts. Office donuts is the thimble of poison. How can you control not eating those donuts? Well, you can try to use your willpower and not do it, or you could come to work after eating a healthy breakfast and you're full and you're not really tempted by those donuts. So you have a choice. So you can rely on your willpower, which is a horrible way to do it because our willpower can be weak at times and it can be strong at times. But if we have habits that keep us full and strong, we're going to be able to, say no to those donuts, to those negative things that our environment offers us at times. But the problem is, in regards to like our thinking, we can't just read books all day. We can't just close our life off and live in a monastery. So how do you do this? How can you start to rewire your brain in a systematic way? And what I've found is through 3 techniques or 3 ways that have helped me like habit stack to where my mind subconsciously drifts less into negativity. And I do that through reading, and I read using the Kindle or iBooks. The second thing is I use Evernote, which is able to, capture my thoughts. And the third thing is I use an app called Readwise, because it takes all the highlights that I'm highlighting from the Kindle and the iBooks and syncs it to this app, which sends me an email every morning of 5 highlights that I've read over time. So I'm getting repetition on a regular basis. And doing this, it's kind of like outsourcing your willpower. And you start to intentionally rewire your brain with good. You're reading, you're jotting down your thoughts, and you're syncing your highlights that are coming to you on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And this doesn't take a lot of time, but just the 5 highlights of repetition every single day is an intentionally starting to rewire your brain, which is building up willpower in you like automatically, so that you can say no to some of those negative influences that are happening in our environment. Just like the donuts, we're able to say no to the donuts because we're healthy. We're healthy on the inside. We've just had a healthy breakfast. Or we're mentally filled up because we've been reading good things and we've been filling up in the Word of God on a consistent basis. So you're no longer hoping for positive in your life. You're no longer hoping that something positive is going to come out of your mouth. You're no longer hoping that you have something positive to say to your team or to your family. You're actually guaranteeing it when you habit stack this way, being intentional about what you're reading, capturing your thoughts, and have a system that feeds it to you repeatedly. So when you do this, it shapes your thinking. And the more you do it, the more it shapes your thinking, the more it shapes your words, and the more it starts to shape your leadership. So I want to leave you with this question. If your mind operates strictly like an ATM, based entirely on the media, on the books, and on the conversations that you've consumed over the last 24 hours, what type of currency are you forcing on your team and on your family to withdraw tomorrow? So I want to close that if this hit you, I write about this at intentionalgrowth.co. The link's in the description. Thanks for watching this. Hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you on the next one.